Aloha, everyone. I'm Ruby Eliason, your orientation leader for today's session, Academic Integrity. Before we get started, I'll be covering some housekeeping items for today's webinar. First, you should be able to hear me clearly. If you cannot, please note in the chat box so that we may troubleshoot with you. Simple fixes include connecting your audio in the Zoom window, turning up your computer video or volume, or using external headphones. Second, please utilize the Q&A function if you have questions for the presenters or about what was shared. For most sessions, all questions will be saved for the end of the presentation. Additionally, participants in the chat are asked to be respectful of others and stay focused on the topic of this webinar so those with questions can easier be seen. Finally, after the session, we will be uploading the recording of this webinar to the VisitA's platform in the video section. All recordings will have closed captioning. Now I would like to welcome and introduce today's presenter, Dr. Leslie Mitchell. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Dr. Leslie Mitchell.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you today. Thank you for joining us for today's session. So we're going to be discussing academic integrity at the university and how to ensure that you're following along with our policies regarding academic dishonesty in your classes and in your life at the university. So today we're going to discuss the 5 types of academic dishonesty, what examples of those types look like. We're also going to talk about investigating proper resources, as well as some academic dishonesty tools we have both at the university, as well as some easy tools online to help you. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with consequences of academic dishonesty at the University of Hawai'i at Mānoa. So there are 5 types of academic dishonesty. We have improper materials, fabrication, plagiarism, and then facilitating and cheating kind of go together in many aspects, and we'll cover that right now. So cheating is an act of academic dishonesty as defined in the policies for use of any unauthorized assistance in taking quizzes, tests, or examinations, or in any of your academic deliverables. So any use of a source or material that is not authorized by your faculty member. So an example would be, there's an online exam and there's 2 students who use FaceTime or Discord or Google Chat or anything like that to complete the exam together. So the reason why facilitating goes along with this is that facilitating really is when you're allowing another person to use your work or view your work in order to finish their own work. So you might allow another student to look off of your test during an exam. You might provide your paper to another student prior to grading it. So really any time during that grading time, whether from the time the test opens to the time the test closes, then you should not be discussing that exam, that homework, that paper, anything like that with another student, because that could potentially be either cheating or facilitating of cheating. Now, another type of cheating is called contract cheating. So contract cheating is when you have your academic work completed by a third party. So for example, maybe you're having troubles with your French language class. And so you go into Craigslist and you put an ad and you ask somebody to help you do your French language class, or you pay them to complete homeworks or essays or anything like that. That would be considered contract cheating. You're coming into an agreement with another party to complete your work, but they're doing all the work for you and not you completing your own work. Now, there's a lot of opportunities to do this, and I'm not advertising these opportunities. I'm merely showing you that any use of these types of options online or through your networks or anything like that would be considered cheating under our policy. So it's really important to remember that all academic work should be the work of your own intelligence or your own work, and should not be assisted by other people. Now, we'll talk about things like tutors and things like that later, but this is literally entirely where somebody just simply completes the work for you. Now, facilitation, another way that facilitation can occur is, for example, there are many courses at the university that happen over and over and over again. So for example, Physics 151 may be offered every single fall and spring semester or every fall semester. So maybe you had a friend who took Physics 151 last fall and you're taking Physics 151 this fall. Using their homework, quizzes, papers, anything like that to complete your own work could potentially mean that you're cheating on those academic work. So you really want to be very careful about the resources you use when completing your own academic work. It should not be the work of others in order to complete your own work. And we can get into some questions later at the end of the session to go over any questions you have about them. Now, the second type of academic dishonesty is fabrication. So fabrication is the fabrication or falsification involves unauthorized creation or alteration of information in an academic document or activity. So this could be where a student alters or forges a document for class. So for example, a student might be required to complete evaluation hours. Maybe they're a student teaching individual and they have to do evaluation hours, but instead of actually going to do their evaluation hours, they just write in their journal that they did them, despite having not done them. That would be fabrication or falsification of their academic record. So you should not do that. Any of the work that you're required to do, you should either complete it or just tell your faculty member that you didn't complete it and take the consequences at that point. Now, there's other types of fabrication. So for example, if you skipped class and then gave your faculty member a false doctor's note, that would also be considered fabrication, but we would treat it differently under the student conduct code. So you could potentially face consequences with your faculty member. So they may dock you the participation points for the day, or they might give you 0 participation points and no homework points, whatever it would be that they feel is fair and consistent in their class. But they also would refer it to my office for adjudication, because fabricating a doctor's note or any other document that you're giving to a university official is also a violation of our conduct code. Now, another example of fabrication could be simply fabricating your labs or your data collection. So an example would be on Course Hero. They have several different labs, like past lab books and things like that. And so if you entered in your course, again, Physics 151, for example, you're likely to find an old lab that somebody else has uploaded and you're able to view it. Any use of this lab write-up could be considered fabrication and an academic integrity violation. It's important to know that this actually does not belong to the student. It is academic property of the faculty member. And so uploading this information online is a violation of that academic material, but it's also you viewing it could likely be a violation of our academic dishonesty policy. Another example of fabrication is taking data information. So say, for example, you have to have an experiment about how plants grow under certain types of lighting. And you don't really want to do it. You either don't want to do it or you mess something up, something didn't go right on the experiment. And instead, you go to one of these handy dandy data set websites and just take data sets from that website. That would be a violation as well. The course requirement was to do your own research. And so taking this information and presenting it as your own would be a fabrication violation. Now, the last type of fabrication I want to point out is that any adjustment, significant adjustment in your findings. So say you did do this plant research and you did different kinds of lights, maybe 4 different lights, and the plant grew, but it didn't grow how you thought it would grow. And it could be because you messed up the experiment. It could be because there is something wrong with the plant, who knows, but it just didn't go the right way. And instead of accounting for that data issue and discussing the implications in your paper, you instead just changed your data. So changing the data to fit your hypothesis or conclusion would also be fabrication. You should not adjust any of your data just to fit what you want it to show. That's important to remember. Now, the third type of academic integrity violation is the most common. It's referred to as plagiarism, and I'm sure most of you have heard of plagiarism in high school or another college or whatever. So plagiarism is an act of academic dishonesty that is like paraphrase or direct quotation of published or unpublished work by another person without full and clear acknowledgement. It also includes the unacknowledged use of materials prepared by another person or agency engaged in selling upturned papers or academic materials. So essentially, when we're reading anything that you write, we should clearly be able to discern, are you the author of that? Is that your theory? Is that your point that you've established? Or is that somebody else's idea that you're citing or you're acknowledging? So we should be able to clearly understand what pieces are yours and what pieces are being borrowed or paraphrased from another source. Another example could be self-plagiarism. So self-plagiarism is where you have potentially, let's say you're in English 101 and you have to write an essay on 1984. So you write this essay in 1984 and you turn it in, you get a grade, maybe it was 5 pages, you turn it into class and you get a grade on that. And then the next semester, you're in another class and you're reading 1984 again. And you're like, I just wrote an essay on this last semester. I'm just going to use my essay again. That would be considered self-plagiarism. You in general cannot use one assignment that you've already turned in for a class, received a grade for a subsequent class. If you do want to do that, you need to clearly inform the new instructor that you have previously written material of this content or this area or even a piece of the material, and that you wish to use it again in their class. They might say, yeah, no problem. Just add X, Y, or Z, or add this new piece or something like that. And then you'd be able to use it. Sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't care, use whatever you want. And that's fine too. But the important piece is that you're notifying the faculty member that you've already used this content in a previous course and that you're going to ask to submit it again for this course. And that doesn't matter how much it is. So whether you're using the whole paper, the original paper on 1984, or maybe you're using 3 of the 5 pages, it doesn't really matter. You should be asking at all times. Now, the difference would be is if you're using maybe 1 sentence. I wouldn't think that you need to get permission from your faculty member for that, but obviously 3 pages or the whole paper is far more significant. All right, so let's go through a little activity to talk about plagiarism. So this is an example of a sentence that one might write regarding, let's say the topic could be, who has been presidents of higher education institutions. So this is an example. It says Frances Elizabeth Willard was the first woman college president of, quote, Evanston College in 1871. Now I want you to use your chat. And it will only go to me, so don't worry if you get it, if you don't know or not, but I just like a try if you can. So if we can have our participants tell me, is this plagiarism or not? Go ahead and enter that. I'm seeing some good answers. Okay, good. So perfect. Oh, they're all flying again in at the same time. Okay. Okay, so we have some mixed answers, actually, some yeses and some nos. Does anybody want to give a guess about why or why not this would be plagiarism? So if you said that this is not plagiarism, if you could add in why you don't think that it is, and if it is plagiarism, enter in why you think it is. And I see 1 participant already did that. So that's great. Thank you. Anybody else add in your rationale? Okay, so we have some people that are saying no, that it is not plagiarism because it is factual and it's a statement. And then the people who are saying that it is plagiarism is because they did not cite where they got the information and that it isn't common knowledge. I agree with that. I don't know how many people know that it's common knowledge that Frances Elizabeth Willard was the first women college president of Evanston College in 1871. And so just to answer this question, so this would be considered plagiarism. If you are using quotations or fact, as somebody already alluded to, that is not common knowledge, you need to provide a citation for where you got that information from. So the person who wrote this does not know this information. They did not, discern this on their own. They received it from a source. And so making a citation of that source is required. All right, is this better? Is this plagiarism? Go ahead and enter in the chat. Okay, yes, this is better. So this is not plagiarism, but the reason why I have this as an example is, what is the purpose of these quotations? Is it not something that you could have paraphrased? It turns into less of a plagiarism issue, but more of a purpose of this quotation. Why would you quote this when you could rephrase this in more concise way or give more detail or more information that's more important or related to your writing? There I go. I fixed it. So I added more information. Is this plagiarism? Okay, good. You all are picking up on this. So yes, this would be plagiarism. There is no citation. The paraphrase is great. It doesn't appear that they've lifted any of this information. It's not from a known source that they are taking word for word from. They've rephrased it. But the issue is that there's no source. Again, going back to this, what is common knowledge? The first woman to be college president of Evanston College is not, common knowledge by the general public. Now, this is the final stage. Is this plagiarism? I see a heck no. You are right. This is not paraphrasing, or this is not plagiarism. So you have the perfect sentence, right? So you have rephrasing of the information. You've cited where you've got that information, and it makes sense to add to your paper. It's not, inconclusive. It's not short where there's no point in it. All of these different things makes up a far better representation of that piece of information. Okay, so another type of plagiarism is what I refer to as like formatting plagiarism or major point plagiarism. So this is where you do research, and maybe in this case, this example, you are asked to write what criticisms are there of this philosopher, researcher, Iliad. And so you go online, you're looking around, and you come across this Wikipedia website, and it tells us that the 3 criticisms of Iliad scholarship is overgeneralization, lack of empirical support, and its far right and nationalistic influences. So then you go in and you write your paper and you say there are 3 clear criticisms of Iliad's work: overgeneralization, lack of empirical support, and the tendency to have far right and national influences. Now, the issue with this is that you likely did not come up with this content on your own. It's formatted from the source that you took it from. And so by using those main points that this scholar, whoever wrote whoever contributed to this Wikipedia website, they are the ones who created those criticisms. And so either taking those wholesale or taking them without citation, it would be a clear example of this type of plagiarism. So be very careful when you're asked to do an analysis of something or a critique of something, and you come along a book or an article that does exactly that, and you just use their information. That would be a violation of our plagiarism, more likely than not. Skip that. Okay, so common questions that come up. And I want to skip right ahead to number 2 because we had a conversation just earlier about this. So what is common knowledge? So common knowledge is where there is content within your field, whether it be biology, education, or business, that is considered common knowledge. So, you know, a theory of student development, or a you know, the systems, the solar system, Jupiter and whatnot, things like that. Those are common knowledge. But that's also information that has been researched thoroughly by other people. So if you're building on that, so for example, with the previous sentences about Francis Willard, that is not common knowledge. The information about how that individual founded Evanston College, that is information that has been taken from a source and needs to be provided citation. So it's important that if you are writing an essay, a response piece, or anything like that, and you believe that what you're writing about is common knowledge, or things that you're discussing are common knowledge, check with your faculty member, because each area is going to be different. And each subject matter may have, you know, a variety of different theories or perspectives that vary in that realm of common knowledge. So just making sure that you check with your faculty members, your researchers, all of those different people to make sure you're in line with that. Now, 1 and 2 kind of go together. The ability to avoid plagiarism just by listing every source, and that you cannot do. So you need to integrate acknowledgements into what you're saying. Give the reference as soon as you've mentioned the idea that you're using, not just at the end of the paragraph. So it's often a good idea to name the author. So for example, Brown says, or Smith argues against X, and then indicate your own stand. So for example, a more inclusive perspective, however, would be X. The examples show, you know, the examples we've discussed kind of show other ways to rephrase. And so if you need that assistance, make sure you reach out to your faculty member in order to go over that information. The last one, do I have to give an acknowledgement for every point I make? And that kind of goes back to common knowledge, but also understanding the use of rephrasing. And one tip as well, there are websites on the internet that are called rephrasing tools, or they specifically talk about how they will help you not be caught for plagiarism, because they're going to help you rephrase things. I obviously thoroughly implore you not to use those websites, because essentially what they do is they'll pick random words in the text. It's an artificial intelligence. So they'll pick random words in the text that you copy and paste, and then all they'll do is find a synonym. So there was a really funny one, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they switched a word like it was said solar system, but they switched out system to be a synonym or system. So now it doesn't make sense, right? Because a solar system is a thing versus a solar synonym of system is not a thing necessarily. So really being careful of those online tools, because they don't help you in the end. So really critically thinking about what the point is you're trying to establish thinking about it in your head, marinating on it a little bit, and then coming back to it to rephrase it in your own words is really very helpful. Now, the last question that we often get is usually because students are writing and doing things late at night. They're tired, or if you're doing it during the day, you have other things that you're kind of worried about. You're kind of crushed for time. You don't have the time to properly appoint to different exams or essays or things like that. And so some students start to forget, did I write this, or did I get this from the textbook, or did I get it from an online resource? And so that's why it's really important to manage your notes and your resources very clearly to make sure that you don't accidentally take something as your own work when it really came from a book. Because after a while, after you're typing all these things and writing your essays and things like that, you start to think, hey, that sounds pretty good. I must have written that, or that sounds really good. I can't find the source. So how do I accomplish that? Or is this my own work? So what I recommend, and there's a couple different ways to do that. One way would be to write your quotes that you really like on index cards. And you would write the quote on one side of the index card, and on the back side, you would put the resource, the citation that you've used. Another option is to, when you're taking notes, use quotation marks. So you see it in your notes that that is a quotation mark, and then write the citation underneath it. Or if you're typing your notes and you want to add in different things, use quotation marks automatically and just maybe put a placeholder for the citation so you can come back in the future. But all of those things help you to clearly differentiate. Once it gets late, you're rushing to get the paper done, that this actually isn't your content, that it's from somewhere else. All right, so the last type of academic dishonesty is called improper materials. And this is actually getting almost up there with plagiarism as far as behavior that our students are unfortunately engaging in. So improper materials is where you use sources beyond those authorized by the instructor to complete your work. You might the acquisition without permission of tests or academic materials belonging to a member of the faculty or student body, or engaging in any behavior specifically prohibited by the faculty member in the course syllabus. So let's break it down. So the first one, use of sources beyond those authorized by the instructor, is really important. So our faculty or our instructors, whenever they're doing their syllabus, reviewing prior to a test or an exam or a homework, they'll tell you what you can use. So they might say you can use a pencil or pen, a scratch sheet of paper, and your textbook. So any material that you use outside of those three things may be considered use of improper materials. So if you used another textbook, or you used a note sheet, like a cheat sheet, or if you got on Discord and were using materials through there, that could be considered improper materials, because the faculty only needs to define what you can use. If they don't say it, then it can't be used. So even though they didn't say, oh, you cannot use Chegg, for example, that doesn't mean that you can use it, even because they didn't say it. The second one there, the acquisition without permission of tests or other academic material belonging to a member of the UH faculty, staff, or student body. So this is similar to what I said before with the cheating definition. So if you were to go on a website and use old tests or old homeworks or old exams from this class or other classes in order to complete your own work, that would be a violation of this policy. You're supposed to be completing your work and your own academic ability and not relying on other means that are not authorized by the faculty member or that are used without permission. And the last one is engaging in a behavior specifically prohibited by a faculty member in the course syllabus or class discussion. So this might be something like collaborating with others. You know, maybe the faculty put in their syllabus, all your homework must be done individually. You cannot work with other students. So if you went ahead and worked with other students, that would be a violation of their course syllabus or class discussion. They might reiterate that, or they might just simply say that in class, and it's not necessarily in their syllabus, but it's still a policy that they've implemented for their course. Okay, so another example of improper materials would be Chegg. So Chegg is a popular website with students really across all institutions. To be honest with you, a lot of students use Chegg for a variety of different things. There are some pieces of Chegg that are great. So for example, they have paper rating. So you can put in your paper that you're working on, and they'll let you know if anything looks like it's plagiarized, so you can fix that. They'll also let you know if there's any grammar issues, or maybe if there's any, issues with your spelling or things like that. So Chegg will help you with that. Nobody will write a paper for you necessarily on Chegg. Now, one of the problematic areas is called Math Solver. So in the Math Solver piece of Chegg, you can literally enter any formula, algebra, calculus, advanced calculus. I don't know a lot about math, but you can enter any of your formulas and it literally will spit out an answer for you. And so using this on something like a homework or exam that will be graded is a violation of our academic integrity policy. This is not your work. It's using a calculator or some sort of fashion, especially if your faculty member hasn't permitted you to do that. So I would guess 99% of the time, if you used Math Solver to complete a homework or other deliverable that is graded, it would not be approved and thus would be use of improper materials. The next part about Chegg that I don't particularly like either is called the expert Q&A. Now, the expert Q&A is when you enter your problem that you have, and then it's kind of crowdsourced. People just chime in. Sometimes there's hundreds of different answers that somebody will submit for that given answer, for that given question that you have. Now, the reason why this is not okay is because typically, like I said on the last screen, 99% of the time, the faculty has not given you permission to go into Chegg and crowdsource the answer for you to submit on your graded homework or exam. So it's important to remember. The second issue is that some students will confuse this with tutoring. This is not tutoring. Tutoring is where somebody assists you. You meet with them, you discuss the problem that you're having, and they assist you with coming to the answer. They do not give you the answer. They don't give you pieces to get to the answer. They work along with you to get that answer. So in comparison to this Chegg example, these individuals are simply giving you the answer. So there's no work. They might show you their work, but you don't learn from that. So any use of this is not considering tutoring. We have tutoring options on campus. So it would not fly if you claim this was tutoring, because it is not tutoring. The last is this Course Hero example. So Course Hero has a wealth of former tests, exams, notes, things like that on the website. It's important to know that most of these documents on the website are actually pretty much there illegally. They are the property of the faculty member. The faculty member has established these, they've written these lab reports, they've written the test, it's all their materials, and the students are taking it from them and getting personal gain by posting it on this website. So your use of these materials is also part of that chain. So it's important to know that you should not be using these materials for your own work. You should be creating your academic work in your own merit. Now, at the university, there's a couple different policies that relate to academic integrity. The first one is regarding research and scholarly misconduct. So most of our undergraduate students are not engaging in high levels of research until maybe your junior or senior year. And then of course, our graduate students are regularly engaging in it. So our university has a policy about, any misconduct when you're doing research or scholarly actions. And so it's important to note that sometimes these things are, you have a grant, it's a federal program, it's issued by the state, you're getting money to complete this research. And so any sort of fabrication of data, plagiarism of content or ideas, or falsification of research materials, all of that would be in violation of this policy. And the consequences are quite serious. So you could lose your ability to research at the university, period. So the university could say, because of this, you're not going to have any, UROP if you guys attended the undergraduate research opportunities program. If you were found in violation of this, you might not ever be able to participate in that program again. Maybe the department won't allow you to research under their department again. You might even be, losing pay if you're a TA or an RA, a GA, something like that. You could lose pay, you could lose your job, you could lose future pay. All of those different things could be pretty serious consequences of this behavior. Now, it's important to know how to investigate your online sources. So thinking about things like this, who is the author? Are they a faculty member somewhere? Is it Bob's School of Nursing, or is it the University of Hawai'i at Mānoa nursing program? Two different levels, two different programs. One is reputable, one is not. Have they published before? Or are they in a scholarly journal? Are they in Bob's Journal of Nursing, or are they in the National Nursing Journal? All of those things you need to consider with that. Have they published a book? Are they employed by a research institution? All of these things build up to the credibility of that author. Another thing that you'll want to look for is, are they cited by other people? If you go into the main Hawaii search, University of Hawai'i library search, it will actually show you how many citations are present. So how many people have cited this same journal article. That gives you a level of credibility as well. You're also looking at things like the URL. Is it .gov, .org, .net? .net is dicey. You probably aren't going to like looking at anything at a .net. So all of those different things build into why or why not you should use that resource. Now, there are some tools at our university to help you with your academic integrity. The first is the Writing Center. Highly encourage you to use it. It's a wonderful resource. The key about the Writing Center is that you have to start early though. If you have a paper due at the end of the semester, you need to start on it sooner than later, October, September, somewhere around there. So you have enough time to meet with the Writing Center, get feedback, incorporate that feedback, and then submit a successful paper. So the Writing Center, I believe, was doing virtual appointments in the fall in the spring. So just check their website. Usually for the summer, they don't have appointments, but they'll start again in the fall. It is led by students. The Writing Center tutors are students, but they're advanced students in this area. So I encourage you to use that. The Mānoa library system also has workshops on how to do citations, how to research, how to pick scholarly sources, all of these different things. Now, online, I also recommend these things like the online plagiarism checker by Small SEO Tools. That's free. It's not amazing, but it will help you. There's also Citation Fox, Citation Machine, BibMe, Zotero, and Purdue Online Writing Lab. Those are all tools to help you write a citation. And I believe all of those are free or very, very, very low cost. Zotero, I believe, can be received through the university. So inquire with the library about that. Now, Purdue OWL is one of my favorites. I use it frequently. It's updated regularly. All the newest versions are there. It's very easy to use. As you can see, it lists the different citation types on the side, and then we'll give you an example on how to do it once you click on that. So they also use Chicago, MLA, and of course, APA. Another example was the BibMe, and this is where they will both help you check your citations, but also they want to help you create your citations. Because depending on the style, it can be slightly difficult. So it takes getting practice with. So using these will help you greatly. Other example is the Small SEO Tools, which is the plagiarism check. You can put an amount of your paper. Usually, I believe it's about 1,000 words. Yeah, 1,000 words per search. So you would put 1,000 words in there, and then they will tell you if it's problematic. So is there anything of issue in that writing, and how do you fix it? One last thing I'll go over too is that the library, if you're using the search tool and you select on a result, whether it be an article or a book or a forum, some sort of content. You can get a citation from the library as well. That search tool, depending, you would just click on what type of citation you need, whether it be Chicago, MLA, APA. You can click on it and it will give you a citation. The problem is that sometimes it's not perfect when you go to copy and paste it into your paper or your written response. So you should go back and check in and edit it if you need to after the fact. Okay, almost done with this. So the last thing is talking about academic dishonesty. So academic dishonesty at the university is our student conduct as a rule and standard. So that means that first it starts with our faculty member. So the faculty member is acknowledging the issue, making an allegation about what happened, and then likely taking course action. So that could mean that they fail you for the paper or the homework, or they could decide to fail you for the class. So even a mistake on, or an error or plagiarism on one piece of homework, they could make a decision to fail you for the entire class. So it's really important to take all of these things seriously, because the faculty member has the discretion. As long as they're consistent across students or incidences, they have the discretion to do whatever they need to do to uphold their academic policies. Now, once they've decided on their action, they then refer it to my office. So my office, the Office of Student Conduct, would receive the report and meet with you additionally as a student. Now, our cases result in what's called an educational record at the University of Hawai'i. So they are a formal record of any behaviors or incidents that occur. Consequences if a student is found responsible for academic dishonesty could be up to and including suspension or expulsion from the university, even on the first time. So it's very important to take these policies seriously, as they can be very impactful on your academic career. Now, the last bit is just how you can contact us. So we're the Office of Student Conduct. We're in the Queen Lele'ukalani Center in Suite 207. So we're in the back. Our email is osc@hawaii.edu, and we can be reached for phone, but really we prefer email, just so we can make sure that we have everything in writing and can get back to you. We also have a star balance, and if you go to our website, you'll see that we have a star balance kiosk, so you can log in during business hours and we can Zoom with you at that time as well to answer any questions. And I will get into the questions then. Anybody have any questions about any of the content I went over today? You can enter them into the Q&A box. And if you don't want us to know who asked the question, you can click the anonymous box, and you'll start typing the question and just click the anonymous box, and then we won't know who asked the question, even though there's no bad questions during orientation. But if you don't want others to know that you asked the question, you can do that.
There was one question that came in. Dr. Mitchell, if a student is worried if they are plagiarizing, can they contact your office?
Yeah, so if you have concerns about something that you're writing, you can contact our office. We'll likely refer you to the writing center or something like that, because that's not our main role on campus, is not to provide advice on writing and things like that. But so we encourage you first and foremost to speak with your faculty member and get insight or feedback from them on your writing. I found that faculty members, as long as you're showing that you are taking an effort in making sure that you're not engaging in any sort of academic dishonesty, they're going to respond positively to that. So if you just go up and say, hey, I'm trying to write this, I don't know exactly how to write it to make sure that I'm not plagiarizing or not having any issues, can you help me kind of do this? And they'll help you, largely they'll help you do that, or they'll send you to the writing center too as well to get an appointment. So I would recommend that you reach out to your faculty first and foremost, and then the writing center.
I don't see any more questions coming in, but I think on the other side, generally this question does come out, is if a student is found responsible for violating the student conduct code, or potentially how long does that process take?
It's a good question. So typically the faculty will refer the case to our office. It typically takes about a couple business days, 1 to 3 business days, and we'll reach out to you to have a meeting scheduled. You'll have a week to schedule that meeting, and our meetings are required. So if you don't schedule a meeting with our office upon getting that notice, you will have holds placed on your account until you schedule that meeting. And then we'll have the meeting. Usually it's about an hour long, discuss the incident. And then after the meeting, it typically takes about 3 to 5 business days to come to a final determination. And as I mentioned, determinations about academic dishonesty could result in sanctions up to and including suspension or expulsion. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you're following our academic integrity policies and really taking those seriously to ensure that you're doing your best in avoiding any of those kind of procedures.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Ruby, you want to go ahead and close this out?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today for this presentation. We hope that you've gained some helpful information from Dr. Mitchell. If you have further questions or questions that were not discussed, please email your OL or NROW@hawaii.edu for assistance.